Hello and welcome to the day ahead. It is Friday, July the 31st. I'm Andrew Gagan. Well, the local market is set to rally at the open with ASX futures up more than 1.1%. Global investor sentiment turned positive overnight as bond yields and the US dollar fell, along with oil prices, despite the US and Iran launching further military strikes. Wall Street's major indices ended sharply higher, led by chip stocks, ahead of more key earnings results after the bell. The S&P 500 Tech Index jumping more than 5% and the Philadelphia Semiconductor Index 8% higher. Amazon beat market expectations for quarterly cloud sales growth and revenue at its cloud computing unit AWS, jumping 37%. Although its free cash flow turned sharply negative in the period, shares in the online retailer jumping 9% after the market closed before settling lower. Apple reported sales and profits that beat Wall Street expectations, fueled by its customers buying iPhones and MacBooks amid price increases. Third quarter sales were up more than 16%. However, rising services revenue failed to meet targets, dragging its shares 4% lower after the bell. Microsoft shares surged more than 15%, its biggest daily gain in 18 years, after the tech giant yesterday forecast quarterly sales and cloud growth above expectations and reported capex below estimates, easing investor fears about the massive spending on AI infrastructure. And Meta tumbled after the social media heavyweight reported a 91% drop in second quarter free cash flow, indicating the financial strain of its costly AI build-out. Among the Nasdaq's biggest advances, Nebius, SanDisk and CoreWeave all recovering some of their recent heavy losses. MasterCard's second quarter profits surpassed analyst expectations, boosted by strong transaction volumes from steady consumer spending. And in Europe, Shell's net profit more than doubled from last year to $9.8 billion in the second quarter, beating expectations held by higher energy prices. Well, the conflict in the Middle East has re-escalated with fresh US strikes reported overnight, while a drone strike on an Egyptian port has potentially opened up a new front in the war, raising the prospect of threats to navigation through the Suez Canal, one of the last remaining export routes for Saudi oil. In the US, economic growth slowed to an annualised rate of 1.5% in the second quarter as imports widened for the trade deficit, but consumer spending and business investment related to the AI build-out underscored strong domestic demand. And core PCE inflation slipped from 3.4% year on year to 3.3%. And the Bank of England has kept its policy rate unchanged at 3.75% as expected. The US 10-year is at 4.67%. The US dollar fell to a more than 2-month low against the Japanese yen in what analysts said looked like official intervention by the Bank of Japan to support the currency that has been languishing at 4-decade lows. The Aussie dollar jumping more than 1% to 70.3 US cents. Oil prices settled lower after a volatile session as traders digested proposed plans for a Saudi Arabia-led maritime coalition to boost defence cooperation around the Red Sea. Iran-aligned Houthi militants in Yemen declared a naval blockade last week on Saudi Arabia, threatening the Red Sea route for its oil exports, which is an alternative passage to the Strait of Hormuz. Brent futures down around 2% at $89 a barrel. Gold has risen as the US dollar weakens, spot gold up 1% at around $4,100 an ounce. Copper futures rose 3%, while iron ore was down almost 3% to $96 a tonne. And Bitcoin is currently trading around $64,500 US dollars. Ahead today, June private sector credit data will be released, and on the corporate calendar, Fortescue is due to release its June quarter production report, while quarterly updates are also expected from Capstone Copper, Genesis Minerals and Origin Energy. And that is your day ahead.